Hi everybody, so today is July 6th, 2023, and this is just our daily update video for Taylor Line Queen. I want to welcome everybody. If you have been watching my videos, thank you very much. Make sure you like and subscribe for me. It just helps out like small business for sure. And I guess I'll just jump right into it today. So today I just want to talk about stories. And our stories, part of our egoic identity, and just in general, the stories we tell ourselves, the stories we tell other people about ourselves. And I really just want to talk about considering the ability to live a life without attachment. So today's video will be a lot about non-attachment and not attaching ourselves to things that aren't pertaining to our spiritual journey and just part of our middle world journey. So I call you all to create and dream your life instead of let your life happen to you, to act on inspiration and divine impulse without fixating on the known story of success and achievement that you have known up until now. And by that, I just mean our domestication. If you've read the Four Agreements, you know a lot about domestication, and if you haven't, you really should. The Four Agreements and all of the counterpart books are really amazing spiritual books just to read, and just life books in general. And today I just challenge yourself to ask yourself these four questions. So first, can you live impartially and impartially observe the stories you tell yourself and others? And by that I mean, can you impartially tell your life story without having the deep, dark feeling of shame, disappointment, attaching yourself to what has happened in the past to you, as well as just fretting about it, being anxious about it in general? And this is something that we just function on in our society, defining ourselves by what's happened to us. So I introduced to you the concept of letting your past not be what you root yourself in, letting your past just be your past, and letting your present self be now. So the second question is, what if you could become a mystery to yourself? And what I mean by this is, what if we don't completely define ourselves by what we tell ourselves we are? Like when you're little and your mom says you're really gifted as an artist, that makes you an artist. But what if you're just a creator? What if you don't want to be defined by a specific modality or a specific trade or skill? Or we could have the example of mystery to yourself of being, what if you have had narcissistic tendencies in the past? What if when you are suffering, you have brought suffering on others? Can you do something to switch that? Can you be a mystery to yourself and react differently? And through that, our third question is, who would you become if you stopped telling the stories that you have defined yourself by up until now? So defining yourself by things you've done in the past instead of defining yourself by how you act in the present. This is how we should be living our lives, in my opinion, of being present and being who you are in this moment. Excuse my roosters in the background. I'm doing this outside on the homestead. So defining yourself not by your stories of the past, but really defining yourself by what you do in this moment. And this comes down to spiritual integrity and what your core values say, because sometimes we have to do things that are within or against our stories of the past because our core values dictate us to move forward in our life and do something new for the first time. And the fourth question is, what if there were no need for you to explain yourself to anyone? This is going back to the core values, which hopefully that video will go up today, of my lecture on finding your true self, stepping into your true self, and how you find your core values, your spiritual integrity. Hopefully that'll go up today. But what if you didn't have to explain yourself to anyone? And this is so true in a holistic manner, in a spiritual manner. You have no need to explain your actions to anyone unless you have entered a soul contract with that person. And by soul contract, I mean you have said the words, I love you, and dictated to Great Spirit that this person is someone that you will compromise for. So in that, which I talk more about it in my lecture on finding your true self, but in that, the people who you make soul contracts with can be your family, but sometimes you can sever a contract with them if they have done something to infringe on your spiritual integrity, but your romantic slash sexual partner is someone you have dedicated yourself and your soul to, which makes a soul contract. Your children, sometimes your friends, and it depends on that relationship. But if you will compromise yourself for another person, you have entered into a soul contract with them. And that is when we might want to explain our actions to others to maintain that soul contract. But even then, it is still a deep gift to explain your actions and your story to others. So start to realize that when you just give that willingly. You do not have to live in a story that has roots in the past. And by this, I mean, roots in the past are, you're just that. They're just your roots. They're what hold you to the ground. They're what ground you. And sometimes those stories hinder us in the future. So if you've lived a life of a victim, if you have suffered a lot and things have happened to you, which we know in our spiritual journey, they happen for you. But if you have lived a life of letting other things happen to you, allow yourself to step into a hero role that overcomes those roots. And by that, I just mean overcome the things that have happened to you, use them as strengths and use them as a challenge to strive for better. So you do not have to root yourself in everything that's happened to you. If you have suffered abuse, you are not an abuse victim, you are an abuse survivor. If you have suffered addiction, you are not an addict anymore, which you still are. don't go back to your substance. But you are not an addict anymore, you're an addiction survivor. And in that, start viewing yourself positively. So in this, I'm going to segue into manifestation. A big message that I'm getting is just be careful what you pray for right now. When I talked about yesterday, the Saturn in retrograde, Saturn is that mover, will create structures. And if you are creating negative structures, and by that I mean your negative thoughts, if you expect the worst out of everything, you will receive the worst. If you expect the best, though, you will receive the best out of everything. And you can make your life sacred that way. So be cautioned against relentless attachment to a certain form that you think will make yourself happy, prosperous, famous, etc. We have to relinquish ourselves against the attachment of self. When we're on our spiritual journey, we are a whole being. We are part of one. We are part of the all. We are part of Great Spirit and a fractal of the things that we want to create. And in that, we must make our lives sacred. We have to be willing to sacrifice our own self, our own life for our journey. And to sacrifice is just to make sacred. You don't have to kill baby animals. You don't have to go out and do the whole ritual thing. To sacrifice is to offer something to Great Spirit and basically mark it as sacred. And we can do this in our own life. Something you can do just for a ceremony behind it is something called a spiral ceremony, where you go out in your backyard or wherever, go outside, and you make a spiral in the ground with string or yarn or stones or sticks or whatever you have around. And you start from the outside of that spiral, and as you go into the inner side of the spiral, you think about everything that you need to let go of, the things that are holding you back. These might be mindsets that you don't want to have anymore, like lack mindsets, attachment mindsets, like what we're talking about today, being abandoned, all of these fears. And as you enter the middle of the spiral, you take a breath in that center and you realize that everything is a spiral. Everything is moving around us and for us and will continue to move. Everything will repeat itself until it is learned. There's that karmic story that we all are trying to fight against. And when you exit the spiral, you leave all of those negative feelings in the center of that spiral. And then you finish your spiral ceremony. You pray to whatever Great Spirit, God, whatever you want to pray to. And you just allow those things to stay in that infinite space. So ask yourself, what are you willing to sacrifice for what you have been trying to get? And by that, the thing that you have attached yourself to. Have you attached yourself to money? Have you thought, if only I could get this much money, I will feel better. I'll be right and on my story. If you just want to be happy, if you just want peace, these things of these ultimatums with Great Spirit of saying, if only I had this, then I would feel better. So ask yourself, what would you sacrifice for the things you've been asking? Would you sacrifice your whole journey? Would you sacrifice maybe a relationship? Would you sacrifice your pets or your loved ones for it? Because that's what it takes to move through journeys. And not by detaching yourself from everything or losing everything. I'm not saying you have to lose everything on your spiritual hero's journey, but you do have to be willing to lose it to grow. And so by that, I mean, is your relationship building upon your spiritual journey, or is it holding you in the middle world? Maybe you're not meant to be together. Maybe you need to both grow and find yourselves in a different place. Maybe your job isn't working for you. It's limiting your view of reality because it's just this go, go, go. And so start asking yourself, what can I make sacred in my life? Which means also, what am I willing to sacrifice? Am I willing to sacrifice this job or my family for this job? But start unattaching yourself to yourself. So perhaps we've been telling ourselves a certain story for so long that that story is the only thing that could make us happy. And this is something spiritually to really look out for. And by that, I mean, look out for attaching yourself to something so far that it might draw you away from spirit. And this is kind of what I just talked about of don't attach yourself to these domesticated purposes. Attach yourself to a bigger purpose. And hopefully today, again, I'll release that video about core values. Maybe attach yourself to your top value. Like myself, I attach myself to my value of honor. And honor for me is a very broad concept. Honor can be anything. It can be waking up in the day and dedicating my day not to chores, not to housewifery stuff, or even not to homestead stuff, and dedicate it to spirit. Sometimes it means I need to dedicate my life to my family, to my responsibilities at home. And there's an honor in that, an honor in being the one who provides that nurturing environment. So start attaching yourself less to these human concepts, these people concepts, and more to these spirit concepts. So sometimes we don't even notice how long it takes for our stories to unfold fully. Sometimes we need a lot of lessons, and sometimes you don't even notice how long the person or the idea or the purpose that you have been striving for has been with you, and you just have been too blinded to see it. So in this, I challenge you today to do a gratitude statement, and not just one of I'm grateful for my partner, I'm grateful for my kids, this and that we do a lot of times when we have a gratitude practice, but be grateful for a suffering event in your life. I want you to really deep dive and find one of those suffering events that really just took it out of you, either a dark night of soul event where you lost everything in your life, or something that you still feel a lot of emotions for. And I want you to find a grace in that and start to find some gratitude statements for it. So I'll begin by saying my gratitude statement for the day. And my gratitude statement is I am grateful for everything in my life that created a suffering event. And I mean it, everything in my life that created a suffering event, because if I did not suffer in this life, if I did not find pain, if I did not find lows, I would have never come out of my middle world smoky mirror state. And that smoky mirror state is viewing ourselves as separate from Great Spirit and separate from each other. And in those moments, even if they were bad things that I did to other people, if they are things that happened to me, I am grateful for them, because I would not be the woman I am today, able to counsel, to help people, to see the suffering in people's eyes that I saw looking back at me in the mirror. And so I am just grateful for everything that happened to me in my life up until now. And I hope that you can find a grace in that as well. So just to finish up today's little daily update, there is something that is revered in ancient cultures and that was practiced really up until modern society, and that is a shedding process of self. And this is that concept of you do not have to live in the past. You do not have to live in that story that has roots in the past. So this is something that the South shamanically rules, and the god that rules the South, or the totem that rules the South, is the snake. So I want you to really think about the snake today. Snake sheds their skin gracefully. Snakes do not linger in the past. When they outgrow an old skin, and for us it's outgrowing an old story that we have told ourselves, they allow that skin to be shed gracefully. And they just let them be an old skin. They don't turn around to assess it. They don't pick at the scales that are left, which is something that humans are very known for. We pick at ourselves. We shame ourselves. We look at all of our faults, and we carry them with us into the future. And that is unnecessary. We do not have to carry them with us. We do not have to carry all of that shame with us. And by that, look back at yourself around 16, 17, because we're all pretty messed up when we're 16, 17. And analyze yourself. Am I that same person? Am I that man? Am I that woman? Am I that young kid anymore? And how much have I grown from there? And when you do that, you can offer that 16, 17, 18, whatever year old self back up to Great Spirit. And this is how we sacrifice them. We talk to them with kindness instead of with shame or guilt or disappointment, like we have talked to them in the past. And for an example, my 17-year-old self was a drug addict and was a liar and was a manipulator to get what she wanted. But she was doing that to survive high school, to survive a shift of personality, to find my own personality. So I was rebelling against everything that my parents wanted me to do, which was to have grace, to be honorable. But I see the human in her, and I don't have to shame her, be embarrassed by her, be guilted into hating her. I can say, you are a survivor and you did everything you could. You did everything to the best of your ability, and that was the best that you had. And I honor you in that, and I thank you for that lesson. And I sacrifice you. I make you sacred to me by giving you back to Great Spirit and no longer carrying you to be shamed, to be guilted. And by that, I give her back to Great Spirit as a survivor, as a hero, instead of as the victim or the manipulator or the hated one inside of my form. So I challenge all of you to either write in your journal today or look at an old story that you feel shame over and empathize with yourself, because it's something that we aren't very good at. We're not good at empathizing with ourselves and our actions because we feel like we should always make the right decision. But take some pity on yourself, take some grace upon yourself today, tomorrow, as we're moving through this next year and a half of retrograde in Saturn, because the more we strike against our own flow, against our own, we lose our empathy for others as well. And so showing that true self empathy towards yourself inward will really help you start to come back to your spiritual journey and away from that self-hatred and shame that we all live in. And I challenge you to sacrifice part of your personality, part of your old selves that are no longer part of your story to Great Spirit tonight or tomorrow or whenever you see this video. And as always, I am on social media at Tay the Lion Queen, Instagram and Facebook. Hopefully I'll be getting a little better about that. I'm a Libra, if anybody needs to know that. My sun sign is a Libra. So I'm very airy-fairy and very flaky. And I hope that I can get all of these videos out to you with timeliness. Also some posts on Instagram and Facebook. I will be uploading some more advanced workshops next week on my Patreon page, which will be about step into your spiritual self after I air that lecture this weekend at the Casey Metaphysical Show. I will be at the Kansas City Metaphysical Show this weekend, doing readings for clients and doing a lecture. And if anybody has any questions, feel free to message me on my Facebook or Instagram or email through my website. And I hope you all have just a blessed day. Stay with Great Spirit. Don't take yourself so seriously. We're all just trying to live on this planet and learn our spiritual journeys and shed all that karma from past lives. So just take it easy on yourself and allow stories that no longer serve you be the end. Let those be the end of those stories so that they do not repeat themselves. And go through those endless waters with grace and have honor. And hopefully I will see you guys again soon. Thank you very much for watching, and a like and subscribe would really help me.